Industrial piece, the price of that and all that. 53106 please, or at Newstalk Drive.
There won't be pay increases for anybody. In fact, quite the opposite if Brexit goes as badly as it looks like it may go now.
This is the most serious day since the vote came clear, since the morning of the vote, because in the grand scheme of history and all of that, and 5 and 10 years down the line, nobody really will be looking at what happened between last May and today, because nothing really happened. A load of talk happened and a load of shaping, throwing shapes between countries happened. But today the British Prime Minister outlined a plan, 12 priorities, and you may have heard of hard Brexit, soft Brexit, long Brexit, short Brexit, dirty Brexit, clean Brexit. This falls into a tough Brexit from Ireland. That's what it is. And, you know, she said soothing things about the common travel area and the goal and all of that. But when you look at Irish business, here's the thing. We are a small nation on the doorstep of a big nation, and we use that to our advantage in our business, in our agriculture, in our culture, in our society. And today, what outlined by the British Prime Minister is we're out. We are gone. We voted for Brexit. We're out. We don't want bits of membership, and all of that is going to come tough. And with the last full year that we have was 2015, about 15% of Irish exports went to Great Britain. But the multinationals here actually mess with that number a bit, because, you know, they're exporting all over the world, pharmaceuticals and things, software and things like that. If you take the multinationals out, Irish businesses, Irish farmers, Irish food makers, it's nearly 50%. It's in the 40s. Our exports went to that big country on our doorstep, and that big country is leaving the club, and it's leaving it in a very tough way. And really that, for me, just crystallised today. There is a lot of uncertainty in the couple of years ahead for Irish businesses because of this, because if the sterling is weak, it's very hard for Irish exporters.
And not only sterling being weak, but if they are outside of the customs union, and there are indications that is what they're going to do, they're talking about making some sort of new agreement with the customs, a customs union agreement with the EU, but they're talking about leaving the one that they're currently in. If they're outside the customs union, you're talking about tariffs. So on top of sterling, you also have these additional charges. Why would British people buy Irish goods if they're that much more expensive than what they can get at home or in other trade deals with other countries?
Yeah, and we are talking everything. We're talking furniture, we're talking white goods, we're talking meat, we're talking dairy. We send loads and loads of stuff that we make over there. But let's have a listen to what we learned from the British Prime Minister, starting with the border. Ireland is the only country that Britain has a land border with. Here's what she had to say about the future of that.
The United Kingdom will share a land border with the EU, and maintaining that common travel area with the Republic of Ireland will be an important priority for the UK in the talks ahead. There has been a common travel area between the UK and the Republic of Ireland for many years. Indeed, it was formed before either of our two countries were members of the European Union. And the family ties and bonds of affection that unite our two countries mean that there will always be a special relationship between us. So we will work to deliver a practical solution that allows the maintenance of the common travel area with the Republic while protecting the integrity of the United Kingdom's immigration system.
So really we got an intention today, because the practical solution has not been suggested. Would Ireland have to give up some sort of sovereignty or share some sort of sovereignty with British border agents in our airports and ports? People have said poo-poo to that. So then will there have to be some sort of a border? You can use electronics, you can use modern technology, but will there have to be something that slows you down from going between north and south? And really the practicality, we don't know. We got an intention today for it to be as painless as possible.
And this is very complicated, Chris, because people are talking about, you know, this idea of electronics checking license plates and things like that. But if Britain are outside the customs union, if they're not in the single market, then the transport of goods, whatever about free movement of people, has to be watched very, very carefully. To protect businesses on both sides of the border, it has to be watched very carefully. So what do? Do you just watch all the trucks? Then what happens to all the cars with the boots full of goods going over the border? How do you monitor everybody? Or do you just end up with tailbacks of cars?
All of this.
And trucks.
And we are part of 26. It's not us as one nation negotiating this. 26 are now going into negotiating this. We got an intention, not a practicality today. But Teresa May, in terms of we're out, this is a divorce. She doesn't want to share the house. She's leaving.
We are leaving the European Union, but we are not leaving Europe. And that is why we seek a new and equal partnership between an independent, self-governing global Britain and our friends and allies in the EU. Not partial membership of the European Union, associate membership of the European Union, or anything that leaves us half in, half out. We do not seek to adopt a model already enjoyed by other countries. We do not seek to hold on to bits of membership as we leave. No, the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union.
But the Prime Minister said that some things could actually be sorted out very quickly. For example, all the British people who live in Ireland and other parts of the European Union, lots of British retirees like to go to France and Spain, and then all of the European people, the EU people who live in Britain quite happily, that the idea of their citizenship and the status of their citizenship could be organised almost first.
Brexit must mean control of the number of people who come to Britain from Europe. We want to guarantee the rights of EU citizens who are already living in Britain and the rights of British nationals in other member states as early as we can. I've told other EU leaders that we could give people the certainty they want straight away and reach such a deal now. Many of them favour such an agreement. One or two others do not.
Yeah, so there is some resistance. But as Sarah and I said just at the start, this is the most important day, the day most filled with information since the morning of the vote becoming clear, the result. And that wasn't lost on the Fianna Fáil leader, Micheál Martin, because he was in the Dáil at Leaders' Question saying, look, we got clarity today and it's not pretty.
It's very clear from the Prime Minister's speech that Britain and the needs of Britain is her number one priority.
Thank you, Deputy.
She will speak softly to you, Taoiseach, and Britain is speaking softly but behaving and acting differently, and it will act in its own interests first and foremost. And I don't get a sense that we're up there as high as people might diplomatically like to articulate. I get a real sense that we're heading down a very difficult road, and hence the need for Ireland to start arguing robustly now to protect our interests.
And just to close the gate on where we started, all this on the day that the Minister for Public Expenditure found an extra 120 million for public servant salaries.
Well, for more on this now, we're going to speak to journalist and Guardian columnist Paul Mason. Paul, thank you very much for joining us. What's the reaction to Theresa May's speech today?
Well, you have to remember that the reaction is among large parts of the left and centre of British politics is that they're going to stop this plan. So, just as the Irish political kind of establishment is trying to get its head around the severity of the moves that Theresa May is proposing today, you also have to get around the uncertainty of the fact that none of it may happen. Because certainly many of us do want to remain in the single market or have substantial access to the single market. We want to give that guarantee to both Irish citizens and other European citizens unilaterally to stay. So there's a big argument inside Britain, and you may have picked up that she offered a vote inside the British Parliament on this, but said that if she loses it, she will go ahead anyway. Now, even people, high cynics about British democracy, I'm sure there are many of your listeners may be so, we have a democracy where the government loses its vote, it falls. So I'll predict uncertainty in Britain, leave aside the 27 other members.
So regardless, though, of how much dispute there may be within British society as to the best way forward, Theresa May seems very determined and very clear as to what way she wants to go. So what could actually stop her at this point?
Well, she said that she will invoke Article 50 and she'll put the Brexit plan to a vote. Now, just as much as we were hearing in your news bulletin about the problems that this leaving the customs union is going to pose for, say, Irish agricultural producers, it's going to pose the same problems for our car factories and the rest. And we've got several years to work this out. If the deal is no good for Britain, she said today she will simply walk away without a deal. Well, it's an option, it's a thing, but we have a parliament. And Theresa May, I'm pretty certain that if Theresa May tried to do that, her government could fall. Now, in other words, the Cameron government fell because it messed up the referendum. Theresa May's government is full, I believe, of retreaded, as we might say, about tyres, Tory politicians. It's not exactly the kind of cream of the crop. Let's see how far they get with this plan. The plan is severe, and Micheál Martin is right that it is quite detrimental to the closest nearby neighbours in the European Union itself.
And just on that point, as you heard from Micheál Martin there in the clip, he is concerned that Ireland is not up the priority list for Britain, that Britain will act in her best interests first, which to an extent is understandable. But to what extent do you think Ireland is being considered in these negotiations or in the plans?
Well, I think obviously she had very sweet words, didn't she, there about the long-term friendship between our two countries. I'm not sure how many history books she's been reading, but look. Is there a word for Schadenfreude in Irish? I hope there is, because what you're about to see is this major country in the world reduce itself to another offshore tax haven. That's what it's going to become. Now, it's bad for you because your financial sector and many business people in Dublin, Galway, and the rest of it do kind of they've built a fortune and a kind of future on the idea that Ireland is the offshore financial centre of Europe. No, we want to be it, and I think we're probably, if we do it, going to become very, the whole low wage, high global exposure, low regulation. This is what May wants. So you're now competing with a future Britain that wants to do what you did. And as we heard on your other news item, you're still picking up the pieces of when your attempt to go deregulated and offshore went wrong. So why so many of us in the United Kingdom actually oppose what she's doing.
And aside then from the tax haven aspect of it that we've heard threats of, or at least we see it as threats from our point of view, what about the other aspects in relation to the Irish-British relationship, the border, the relationship with Northern Ireland, and indeed the trade relationship? Is that making up any part of the debate over there? Obviously it's a huge part of the debate here, but does it feature at all over there?
Well, the problem we've got here is until today, everything's been unreal. There hasn't been a plan to be able to critique. It's been assumed that the British-Irish relationship will be just, in some way sort of finessed and overcome. No, it's important for the Irish political establishment to decide what it's going to do. Either it throws its lot in with the hardliners in Europe to force Britain out on a hard deal, or it tries using its diplomatic power to convince Brussels and the Commission to go soft on Britain, or to help the people like me, like Labour, like the Lib Dems, who do want a soft Brexit. It's become a multi-three-dimensional kind of game of chess. But look, I have to say, it's not, when people think about Europe in Britain, they don't think about the Republic of Ireland. They almost assume that Republic of Ireland, it's a kind of old imperialist legacy of thought. They assume that we'll always be sort of together in some way. Now, my assumption is that if this hard Brexit goes ahead, Scotland will secede from the United Kingdom. You won't have a United Kingdom. That's why I'm asking, is there a Schadenfreude, in the Gaelic language? Because if there is, you need to be using it. This is the biggest shooting in the foot, economically, politically, diplomatically, for me, for many people like me, that we've ever seen a British government do.
You mentioned there that the Irish government could use its diplomatic powers in the EU to try and help Britain secure a better deal. To what extent do you think we have the power to help you in that regard?
Well, you don't have a lot of power because you're still, suffering from the post-2008, 2011, aftermath. I think it's an interesting thing that, Donald Trump, this has all become global politics. Donald Trump, gave an interview this week that said he wanted to break up Europe. Now, I think there are forces within the Republic of Ireland who are not keen on even, let alone Euro membership, EU membership. They're still there. I'm wondering now whether they would revive. I think that if the other bit of it is if the United Kingdom breaks up, you know yourself, you've got the political crisis north of the border right now. That's just a holding pattern. It's the same political crisis over and over again. We may be, look, I think my one thing I would say is that in the pubs of Britain and the pubs of Ireland tonight, you've got the same kind of people, ordinary people, very worried about what's going to happen. We are probably going to have to take control. That's the buzzword here. I would be in favour of us, the people, taking control of this process, because if the politicians mess it up, that's real people's lives destroyed. We could see a constitutional settlement in Northern Ireland destroyed by this process, by accident, and almost by design. We could see Scotland ejected from the United Kingdom because the Scots are just not going to have a hard Brexit. They want to be in the single market. They want to be in the free movement area. And I think, I think today is a bigger day in some senses than the 23rd of June, because today we find out what the architects of Brexit really want to do, and I think they want to crash Britain into, like an asteroid, into the kind of planet globalisation.
And they may well bring us with them. Paul Mason, journalist and Guardian columnist, thank you very much for that.
All right, we're going to be talking more about this. Our business editor, Vincent Wall, will be telling us what all of